Hi everybody, welcome to GT Live. I'm Kyle Bosman, sitting in for Brandon Jones this week, and we have a crazy episode. I'm really excited about everything we're about to do today. Our special guest is Matt Gilgenbach, who's creative director not only of Neverending Nightmares, but a new game that is the Kickstarter just launched, Devastating Dreams.
Yes, hi.
Devastated Dreams.
Devastated Dreams,
Neverending Nightmares, Devastated Dreams.
Right, I think there was a Final Fantasy 13 thing called Devastating Dreams when I was searching for names. So it's definitely Devastated Dreams, so we don't get sued by Square Enix.
But you want to piggyback off of their search results.
Oh yeah, we're totally, because I don't know, it's some weird area in Final Fantasy 13. There's 10 Google hits, so I thought we were okay using the name.
I'm glad you played it safe. Also here for the entire show is Elyse Willems.
Hi.
In the booth right now is Ian Hinck.
Oh God! Hi.
Hey, Ian, how are you doing?
I was okay until you did Elise's thing, and now here. Okay, there's mine.
Okay, you know what? Let's just ride
Hi.
this. Ian, how are you doing right now?
I'm good. How are you, bossy?
I'm so excited about this week's episode. It's very nice to be live. But let's
Oh,
also
yeah?
look at the couch, because we have Don Casanova over there, and we have Bloodworth over there as well.
Hey.
Both
they
these guys
are.
will be playing very different games for us throughout the show. But first, we should talk to Matt. Let's understand who you are.
Is that the question? Who am I? That's really tough.
Yes, who are you?
Oh.
This is Matt Gilgenbach.
Yeah, I'm Matt Gilgenbach, obviously. I'm one of a kind. You can't distill me to words.
No, I want to talk about Devastated Dreams. I want to talk about what we're talking about today. You just launched a Kickstarter. When did it start?
Yeah, it started yesterday.
Okay, so this is a huge deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. It's a very scary experience, but also kind of a thrill ride. It's great to see such amazing support from our community. We have a lot of fans from Neverending Nightmares and a lot of people in the community who are really interested in sort of the new things we're tackling that haven't really been done before in Devastated Dreams.
Did you?
Go ahead. What's
Sorry.
up?
Did you kickstart Neverending Nightmares?
We did kickstart Neverending Nightmares, and it was sort of one of those amazing Cinderella stories. We got the funding on the very last day.
Wow.
So it was definitely a scary and nerve-wracking experience, but an amazingly positive thing, and especially because the community has been incredibly helpful for the development of the game. And I like to say I sort of treat the backers as my producers. They keep me on track. They keep me sort of in check, because on Retrograde, my first indie project, I sort of went totally overboard on details and did all these little things that no one will ever notice. And so I like the fact that I have these, thousands of people I have to answer to every week. I write an update, and I don't want the update to be, optimized Skydome renderer with the decal casting so we can, save fill rate, because I spent a month and a half on that on Retrograde, and no one will ever notice. So
I don't even know what you just said.
yeah, it's no one really does. It's basically if you were to look at the things that you're not supposed to look at, like just the sky.
Yeah.
It would look slightly prettier because I spent a month and a half on it.
Retrograde, that's the one where you're it's like a shooter that goes backwards, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's a reverse spaceship shooter. It looks like it looks like a shoot 'em up, but it plays like a rhythm game.
Right. So I want some particular examples of when you're going through Neverending Nightmares, of when your producers, your backers said, "Oh no, you should do it this way." And you said, "Oh, okay, let's do that." Did that ever happen?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of times where one of the things that I try and structure development so that I get everything up to sort of an alpha quality where I don't think it's great, but I think it's pretty good, and then I put it out to the backers, and basically we have a special reward tier on the Kickstarter for alpha access, and it's not early access because we're not showing the whole game. We just show them levels as we finish them. And so, in particular, the best example was there's this little girl who drags this giant knife, and she has no eyes, and the eye sockets are bleeding. And like, I was so proud of this enemy because like I thought it was really creepy, and I did these like sparks that fly from her knife, and that's all you see in the darkness. And then basically the premise was that you just have to run away and then she disappears because she's a ghost, right? I mean, that totally makes sense. Well, it only makes sense to the game designer, which is basically how you can, like, every game design mistake is because, people don't try it and they think it makes sense to them, but of course they thought of it. So people got super stuck. And so what I did was I'm like, okay, make a video, show me what you did and explain why you thought this would work or why this wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And then from that, I basically changed the conditions on which she would disappear. So if you went into another room, she would disappear because that's something people tried. If she went off screen for too long, she would disappear. And so there's like 8 conditions on which she would disappear. And I never would have thought of that. I would have thought, like, I'm brilliant. This is the best enemy I've ever done. And then, people would have played the game and like, I'm stuck. This is dumb. But because I was able to, show what I was doing and get that feedback from the community, I was really able to make a much better game.
Very cool. We should also mention, we have 5 codes of Neverending Nightmares, correct?
Yeah.
That we're giving away today to people who have questions for Matt. So send him all your questions about anything.
Yeah, I'm getting some already, some good ones.
Okay, great, awesome. So what's at stake is codes for Neverending Nightmares. But we should talk about Devastated Dreams. What is this game?
So Devastated Dreams is a very unique game in that you play as a pregnant Filipino woman, and it takes place in a rural area of the Philippines and is inspired by Filipino folklore. So in the Philippines, there's, instead of vampires and werewolves, they have these creatures called aswang. And there are all sorts of different types of monsters, but most of them, their favorite thing, their delicacy is unborn babies. So they have long tongues and they go in through your belly button and then suck out your unborn fetus. And so the game, and I didn't make this up. I mean, that's like really, really brutal. And
But the
like,
thing you did
awful.
do is you heard that and you said, oh, I have to make a game about this.
Yeah, and it's interesting because my wife and I were expecting our first child, and we started on the game before my wife and I got pregnant. But it's funny that when we got pregnant, the development sort of shifted and the emotions about the game shifted because like we had some scares and it's really a difficult time to be pregnant. It's very nerve-wracking and one of the things that really struck me is like early in the pregnancy, you go to a doctor and they're like, well, you're having some problems, so keep your fingers crossed. There's nothing we can do, and they try and comfort you, and they try and say, well, if you miscarry, the baby wasn't viable, so it's for the best. But like emotionally, right? That's kind of like a grim prognosis,
Yeah.
and so like to me, thinking about this now as an expectant father, I feel like and of course I can't speak for all of the Philippines or their culture, but to me I think the aswang represents that sort of fear that they're trying to give meaning to losing a child that hopefully is expected and loved, and just that loss, they're trying to give meaning to it other than just biologically, the roll of the dice didn't work out. I think that's a tough thing for anyone to accept.
Something that stands out to me in your Kickstarter video is when you show the character, I think her name's Angel?
Yeah.
You show like giving her a chainsaw and a rocket launcher, and then you just put a big no sign over her, and you say like, this is not about like just being overpowered, this is about being scared and being vulnerable. And it sounds like that's some of the stuff that you wanted to communicate that you're feeling personally in the game.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a very scary and vulnerable time, and it's very nerve-wracking, and I want to capture that tension through the game, and my wife and I, we care deeply about our unborn child, and we're so invested in it, and I read him stories every night. it's just the idea of losing him now, even before he's born, just like would be terribly devastating.
Right, and then you're trying to communicate that through your game.
Right.
Which is interesting. That's very cool. Another thing that stands out to me in the Kickstarter is when you talk about the diary messages that are left behind, and you say a kind of funny thing is that just like in most games, those make no sense why they are where they are, and you really want to make that make sense within your game's world. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, the example I think of is sort of like BioShock Infinite. I mean, great game, but, you know, you get these messages from, like, Lady Comstock in, like, the Rebel base, and you're like, why do they have that?
And also, why did she record this?
Why did she record this?
Yeah.
Right.
Like
So,
an evil villain revealing the entire master plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been very interesting to try and, from a writer perspective, I don't have a background in writing. I have a background in computer programming, but, you know, I fancy myself a writer, but it's been very challenging.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, fortunately, I have the community of backers. You know, sometimes they're like, maybe you should rewrite this.
Has that ever happened, really?
Oh, yeah. Neverending Nightmares. So, like, I had this vision for Neverending Nightmares that everything would be, like, super Lynchian and weird and awkward. And people are like, this just seems like bad writing. And I'm like, well, darn. I mean, like.
But then you would change it.
Oh,
huh?
yeah. No,
That's
I
crazy.
mean, I didn't go all the way. Like, you know, there were some really good, you know, forum people who were writers and like, here's your new script. And I'm like, well, you know, that's a little more, you know, I still wanted to keep that sort of awkwardness, that sort of, you know, dreams. I don't know, at least for me, the dreams never really fully mesh, never really make sense. So I wanted to keep some of that, but I definitely sort of dialed it back significantly because of the backers.
But with Devastated Dreams, this is more story focused than ever, yeah?
Yeah, so I mean, with Neverending Nightmares, I wanted to basically keep this story as open-ended as possible so you can focus on like symbolism and emotions. Because it was really about you know, obsessive compulsive disorder and depression and expressing what it's like dealing with mental illness. But with Devastated Dreams, there's a story and we want to convey it. And sort of going back to your earlier question, one of the things that I've found I think works pretty well is that, you know, the idea of this sort of rural living is sort of foreign to us in the United States. At least me, I'm pretty sheltered. I'm from Michigan. You know, moving out to LA was exotic for me. You know, so you know, when I went to the Philippines, everything was different, and I saw how people lived, and it just sort of blew my mind. And so, like, even talking to my wife, who lived for over 20 years, you know, she was born and raised in the Philippines. You know, like, one of the things, like, she said, "Oh, you know, we didn't have a telephone growing up," and I'm just like, "What? How does that work?" But I don't know, but telephones were really expensive. And so, you know, if you needed to use the telephone, you had to go find someone who had a telephone. And just like the idea that, and then when we went to the Philippines, you know, there were people living in there called nipa huts. And there's basically bamboo and some wood and I don't know, leaves for roofs, and they had no electricity, no running water, and they had stores that were lit by candlelight, and it was eye-opening. And again, I think, you know, perhaps someone more cultured or smarter than I, you know, maybe would have realized that, but it just seemed so different, so foreign, and I just imagined myself in that situation, and because it was so different, you know, it seemed scary to me, and so I wanted to sort of capitalize on that, you know, the idea of, you know, not having a door lock on your door, and then the nipa huts have open windows.
Or even street lamps.
Yeah. Or
That's
even
one of the things I think you communicated really well in your game is just how dark it is at night.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I didn't even get to, like, explore, and certainly I don't think I would have the nerve to explore, but I mean, we were just getting a tour from a car, you know, and the sun went down, and then I was like, holy crap, you know, this is people's lives. And I think, you know, I'm not trying to say that, you know, there's anything wrong with that, but just for me, you know, as a sheltered Michigander, like, it was shocking, and it was scary. I felt so, you know, sort of pushed out of my comfort zone. And, you know, that's one of the things, you know, with Neverending Nightmares, it's set in sort of a Victorian era. You know, there's a lot of horror from that era. You know, Dracula, H.P. Lovecraft, and you know, because right now, if you have a cell phone, you know, the ghost comes up, you call 911, you call your friends, you call MythBusters or whatever. You know, that's the culture we live in, and certainly there's a different type of horror. I don't know if you've seen it's Pulse in America, but it's Cairo or something like that in Japan. They did an American remake. It was terrible.
I don't
The
watch
American
any scary
remake.
movies.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, if you're listening,
Yeah.
you should definitely watch that movie. It's amazing, and it's sort of like about the horrors of technology.
Okay.
But, you know, I just want to focus on the raw horror. And so by putting people in these situations where they don't have access to a cell phone, where there's not, you know, street lamps and everything, I think it makes it so it's easier to do scares.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of movies now are set in like the 90s, and even games set in the 90s too, because it's like we're so like consumed by technology now that we can't have that completely vulnerable experience.
The internet makes everything less scary.
Yeah, and scarier in a weird sense.
In unpleasant ways. But I mean, right, like if you saw a ghost, I mean, you'd probably just be like, let me put this on Vine, right? Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
okay,
that would make that ghost
do
so
this for
mad.
8
Cut a Vine,
8
yeah.
seconds. Yeah, that'd make a great Vine.
What's crazy to me, Matt, though, is like I can absolutely relate to not wanting to go out into the wilderness at night in the Philippines. I can relate to that because that would terrify me as well. The thing is, I'm curious what inspires you to go and take that fear and make it into a video game.
I think the best thing for video game development, at least I've found, is to express your personal experiences. And so, you know, this was something I don't really get scared in movies or video games. You know, I get creeped out, and I love that feeling. But like, I'm not, you know, easily scared. And so it was just something sort of so shocking to me. When I went there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm, you know, scared. I mean, besides, you know, certainly the psychological horror, it's, you know, dealing with mental illness, that's been very terrifying. But just the idea of, you know, physically, like just the idea of like, I don't want to be out here at night, you know, with all the jungle noises and things.
Yeah, that's terrifying to me. That's so scary. Before we move on, I want to talk about one last thing with your Kickstarter. If I give you $10,000, if I contribute $10,000 to your Kickstarter campaign, I get to own you for a day. Is that correct?
With caveat.
Sure. What are those
You're
caveats?
making it less fun, Matt.
This is important.
I know. Well, I didn't actually. It's more of a joke thing. I don't actually expect anyone to pay that much, but I will do my best to deliver. I won't do anything illegal or immoral, and I think my wife actually saw our Kickstarter page, and she was like, you know, are you really gonna do anything? Like, you know, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. So it might be subject to my wife's approval as well. I might have to add that in.
Could we go to the park and could we litter?
That's illegal, Kyle.
I know. So are you willing to go to that level of illegality?
Well, I mean, but I feel bad for the environment, right? Like, that's
I just spent
irresponsible.
$10,000 though.
Okay, for $10,000, I will litter if no one. But then I'm gonna come back to the park later and then pick it up.
The very next day.
The very next day, I'm gonna find that.
That's
a piece
fair.
of trash.
That's completely fair. But now we're gonna play it. We're gonna play Devastated Dreams. And the person brave enough to play it is Daniel Bloodworth. Our goal right now is to scare Bloodworth, who, much like you, I don't think scares easily. Is that correct, Blood?
Not with games, no.
Okay, so we're going to try to freak him out. We're going to head over to the couch right now. And, Blood, go ahead.
I guess theoretically we could stay here and Blood could play on the couch.
Ooh,
Or do you
which
wanna
would you prefer? We're
go
going
to
to
the
the couch.
couch?
We're going to keep him company, yep.
Everybody on the couch.
Elyse isn't gonna come, right?
Well,
She's
is there
coming.
enough room?
We
Because
don't
I
wanna
don't
give
need
her-
to.
we don't wanna give her
I
nightmares.
guess stay with comments, for sure.
Okay, I'll stay here.
Okay,
Okay.
so let's see.
Yeah, we gotta put the sound back on, yeah?
Matt, you should sit in the middle.
Oh,
Okay.
oops. If he doesn't get scared, I'll just try and startle him. Boo.
Okay.
Alright.
Should I move the mouse cursor out of the way?
No, it'll turn off in game.
Oh, okay, cool.
So probably no
Yeah.
for that. We do something sort of
That's-
like with VR sound.
Mash
where
to
you-
struggle.
Yeah, so that's important. Don't forget about the mash
Okay.
to struggle.
Okay.
Okay.
So is this how the game will start itself?
No, so it's a pretty terrible setup, unfortunately, because this is what I get asked a lot. Like, why is she going out into this jungle? She's perfectly good, in her hut. But I'd like to do sort of an intro segment where we introduce the characters and then also say that she's having problems, sort of pain related to her pregnancy. So she
Blood,
wants to
look
see like a doctor or midwife.
Okay.
So that's why she's venturing out, but we don't have any VO and so and it's early, so hopefully the demo stands on its own as sort of a scary experience, but we don't give a lot of context to
So
anything.
I think that was actually good game design to teach us to look up. It's just Blood isn't as observant as I am.
That's interesting you noticed, because basically this whole the level is sort of structured. There's a couple other elements where I'm trying to train the player without putting up button prompts or
Right.
little
Right,
help
yeah.
messages, because for me horror is really about the immersion, and anything that reminds you you're playing a game takes you out of that world. So we're trying to train people without button prompts, and it's very challenging from a game design perspective to pull it off. So hopefully, fingers crossed, people will be getting out of that first room.
Yeah, I think if I were her and I just read, I didn't think Aswang's were real, like, that would just be the cue to go right back to bed.
Yeah, yeah. So certainly it's interesting because obviously we'd like to have an international audience, and if people in the Philippines like the game, then that's awesome. But primarily we're looking at a U.S. audience, I imagine, just based on the platforms and our previous games and our marketing. So we have to educate the player about the Filipino folklore, I think, for it to be interesting and scary. So, these notes written from characters that don't actually appear in the game give background to the world. They introduce the elements without basically,
This is how dark it
giving
is.
someone a text message.
So this is too spooky for me. I'm already pretty freaked out.
Nothing has happened yet.
I know.
But I guess that's sort of the interesting thing about
Oh, struggle.
the interesting thing about well done horror is, it's all about the tension. And I always come back to this quote from Alfred Hitchcock, which, oh man, it just slipped my mind. But it's like, basically the summary is, there's no excitement in the bang. It's all about the build up to that. And so I think, for a good horror game, you want to create that tension where it feels like anything could happen, and then the actual payoffs aren't as important, at least to me.
And we're right there right now. We came to our first locked door. Is it weird, by the way, to watch someone play this demo right now?
I've actually gotten pretty good at watching people play. We showed it as part of this E3 Indie Media Exchange event.
Cool.
And basically, like, by watching people play, I realized that, like, there were, like, horrible problems with the game. Like, everyone got stuck in that first room because basically I used the same sort of darkness setting. So you couldn't really see that there was a latch up there, and so people didn't know to look up. And then, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, that's obvious once I see other people play it, but it didn't occur to me that would be an issue. So that's one of the best things you can do as a game designer, is watch people play and basically see what sort of mistakes they make, and then they're all your fault, basically, and then you have to fix them.
And we should explain actually to everybody watching that this is on your Kickstarter page. Anyone can go download this demo right now.
Yeah, I think at least for me in terms of doing a Kickstarter is, it's great to have a demo. It's even better to share it with people, because I think, there's a lot of Kickstarters that just have ideas, and I think it's difficult for me as a game developer to...
Nope.
There it is.
We got him. We got one. We got a hop.
Did blood jump?
Yeah. We got a blood jump.
Damn, I missed it.
Well, you put it like a room with bloody rags and a little baby carriage that got no way. Oh, that's too freaky. I'm sorry, but you were talking about how you basically have a proof of concept on your Kickstarter right now.
Right, because I've been making games professionally for, I don't know, a long time, 12 years, maybe 12 years, I think. And, ideas are so easy and everything looks great on paper, but then when you go to make it, you realize that your paper ideas were terrible. They just never work. I don't know, maybe like Warren Spector or, some super game designer could do it, but at least for me, like, nothing on paper works. And so I don't know how to scope a project. I don't know how to budget a project until I've created something that works and I have that vertical slice which shows, I've solved the big problems of the game. How do I move from there? And then, the other great thing about having a playable demo on your Kickstarter is, we're really hoping to get some streamer support, streamers and YouTubers to play the demo. And, that's a great way to sort of spread word of mouth these days.
Yeah,
so.
It is.
It's definitely, interesting, in these days with YouTube and everything where like you can make things so accessible you can share things with people through video and the importance of that to
That's
a game
her own. At least it looks like her.
Whose idea is this to put a fetus in the tree?
I think that was mine, and the story behind that is that's an actual type of tree from the Philippines, so we actually did a lot of research in the location, and it's really creepy looking, and has all these weird things, and I'm like, it'd be great if we had a baby in there.
Oh my god, that's such a freaky idea, man.
Thank you.
That gives me the creeps. So seeing the license, was that just to communicate who we are to the player?
Yeah.
Cool.
So we want to... One of the things that's sort of challenging, at least for me as a horror game designer, is I don't want to do a lot of cutscenes where, two characters are talking to each other. At least for me, I've found that sort of the isolation, the being alone, really helps creating a horror atmosphere. And so I have to try and figure out ways to communicate information about the player without, dialogue between two characters. So we're trying to do that through, finding her student ID. That tells you something. It tells you her age. It tells you that she was or is a student. And then this is sort of more background that will come into play later in the game. This doesn't really have bearing on the demo, but it's actually a true story about the typhoon was very devastating to the Philippines, and we're incorporating that into the narrative of the game, and that's going to be significant to the character for reasons which I won't spoil.
Cool. How much of the game do you have planned right now? In your mind, the entirety of the game, how much of it is set in stone to you?
So I found that basically setting anything in stone is a bad idea, because basically, and I mean I do design docs like everyone else, but I find that as I continue to develop the game, I get better ideas, and so I go and replace them. And so one of the things is because my wife and I are expecting a child, and we sort of wanted to key in on the emotional aspect of that, which we don't really. I mean, I hate to say it, but in this demo you could just be playing as an overweight lady. We don't really do anything other than have the potential villains might prey on her.
Do you scare anybody by having the baby kick?
That's certainly a great idea. That's sort of the type of thing that we want to play with. Is the idea of, that's a living thing inside you. Just because at least for me as an expectant dad, that's been so powerful. Feeling the baby move, and it's just I don't know if any of you have children, but just for me it's been so amazingly emotional just feeling that baby move, and so we definitely want to do more to establish that connection, which again, this is just a demo.
Oh,
Is it a tooth?
that's the key.
Oh, okay.
She just coughed up the key.
Go back to the pacifier.
Oh no.
Wow.
I'm freaked.
That means I'm doing my job well. It's strange having a job where, like, if you can make people scream, then you're doing it well. That's not what most people can say about their job, but certainly I really enjoy that aspect of it.
It's a long road back to that lock.
Well, you could also sprint, but you sort of have limited endurance because you're pregnant.
No. Blood, just keep moving. Oh, he's alive.
Mash to struggle.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mash to struggle. So
All right. Okay.
that's sort of a new thing from Neverending Nightmares. Basically, if you were ever caught, you were killed. But we really wanted to show the vulnerability of the protagonist in Neverending Nightmares. But one of the things, in watching my wife, carry our child is there's so much strength, I think, that is required to carry that baby for 9 months. I don't mean just physically, but also emotionally. And so I want to make this character more of a fighter, than the protagonist of Neverending Nightmares, who is very, very weak and vulnerable and frail.
If we did just run by that spot, would the creature not attack us?
So basically, the creature will attack you at a different point.
Oh, okay.
If you skip that sort of closer look, because. So that's a tick-tick, and there's actually a funny story behind that. The root of the sound is actually my wife recording a sample of what tick-ticks sound like.
No way. Cool.
Yeah, so like I just did it as temp and then said, this is what it sounds like to the sound designer. And then basically the sound designer came up with something I thought was pretty cool. But then like our lead artist, Joe Grabowski, he was like, change it back. Like, it was way scarier. Everyone said it was scarier. And it's like, oh. And then we got Eduardo, our sound designer, to integrate that into, and sort of make it sound fuller and scarier than just my wife.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Baby's gone.
Where'd that baby go?
Ah, is that it?
Yeah. Cool.
Nice.
Did Blood do something wrong, or was he going to get pulled in no matter what?
He was going to get pulled in no matter what.
That's so freaky. All right, cool. Why do you do this?
See him
Why do you do this?
shaken.
I'm a
Are
little
you
shaken.
okay?
No, I'm gonna need a moment. So we're gonna look at this week's badass trailer right now. But before we cut to that, actually, let's reiterate once more what we just saw. This is Devastated Dreams. This is a Kickstarter that just started yesterday.
Yep, just yesterday.
And we just played a bit of it, and you can go download this very same demo that we just
I like
played.
this track.
Yeah, this is a freaky track.
Thank you.
It reminds me of stuff that one of my friends used to do.
Just
Oh,
make
cool.
freaky, scary music all the time?
Not necessarily freaky scary, but very ambient.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, let's check out our badass trailer for this week.
Peggy 12. Yes, come to save the day, I presume. Devastator. Take this!
All right, everybody. We're now doing a segment called Ground Control to Major Don. What we're going to do is we're going to look at Don's Trials Fusion level.
Yes.
We're going to play it. And then an actual real-life video game designer, Don, is going to give you
I'm
feedback
excited. It's
on
my
how
lucky day.
good or awful your level is.
Yes. Can't wait.
And Matt, you've promised not to hold back.
No. The one thing people can say about me is that I'm honest to a fault. So
So, Don, can we load your track?
Trying to load it up. Let's see. So everyone, this is a track some of you may have seen a couple months ago when we streamed it, and the Twitch chat gave us a lot of suggestions, so it's going to be a lot different from what you did see if you saw it before, because I took a lot of your guys' suggestions, put them in the track. It's new and improved.
But those suggestions don't matter because only Matt or real game developers' opinions
and
matter.
now I can deflect them onto the chat. If he doesn't like anything in here, there's a good chance someone out there
that's the
designed it.
great thing about community development and what we do with Kickstarters. I can blame someone else. I got bad advice.
Okay, so this is a skill-based game, so basically the goal is to try to get the most amount of points by the time, and not crash before you get to the end. So here we go. And we have multiple paths here to go.
So you gave us a 1 baby point from the start.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
have 1 point. You see up in the right corner there is our count. So we're on Mars here. And we'll take this lower path first. Whoa, uh-oh.
Oh, no.
See, I already wrecked. This is one of the suggestions people made here. When I crash, we start over all the way from the beginning. I had it before where you reset to the nearest checkpoint and lose your points.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which way to go on that one. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Well, just on a personal note,
Yeah.
I like to make games more forgiving, and the main reason is, as a game designer, you play your game levels so many times that you become super amazing at them.
Yeah.
And then when you put it out in the world, it turns out that they're like basically impossible.
Oh, God.
So I always try to err on the side of making things easier, just because you're going to be the best at this particular level.
That's kind of how I felt. I felt like people would get discouraged and they wouldn't want to keep exploring. And if they had the option of just resetting at a checkpoint, then they'd be more likely to keep playing. And it was up to them if they got caught there. So right now, since we're in test mode, I'm just going back to the nearest checkpoint.
So, Don,
Yeah.
you missed out on that huge 4 points up above. What's going on there?
Yeah, I chose to go on this lower path first. Oh man, I'm wrecking a lot.
Now, did you choose it, or
Well,
because
I kept wrecking when I was going down the. I was really trying to go down there, as opposed to up top. But you're,
I love the burns!
very observant though. Let's see here.
So are you doing another secret right now? With this backing up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why I decided to do this. It's time consuming, but we're getting a point here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, is the point worth the time?
Look at that. I only have 2 points. Well, the time is the secondary thing. So the primary score is points. So you have to, if you have the most points, even if it takes you a little longer, you're going to get first place.
Okay.
But if you tie, then the time comes in as the second factor.
But it's definitely worth exploring because of that, I guess.
Yeah. Oh no.
I think you've changed this part, right? The entrance.
Yeah, I changed the entrance a little bit. Here we go.
You got another one that you got back up for there?
I don't even know if I should bother. I only have 1 point.
That's okay.
But
Now, how do you feel about playing your own level and getting such a poor score?
it's humiliating.
I mean,
I have a smile on now, believe it. I'll really beat myself up.
well, I mean, my question was more, how does that reflect on the game design?
No,
right?
it makes
Like-
me really feel like I should change that thing back and definitely let people just start from like, not have to go back to the very beginning every time. I think that would be frustrating as it is now. Let's see if I can do better this time. All right.
Okay.
Get on that high
Here
road.
we go. Oh no, I'm gonna crash again. Oh, that was embarrassing.
At least you warned us.
You got some cool stuff on that high road, though.
Yeah. All right, we'll go up.
So, a little game design tip. So, Neverending Nightmares it's not very challenge or skill based, but for Retrograde, one of the things was for the game design, I'm not the best at rhythm games. Like, I could never master the 5-button Guitar Hero, but basically I would design levels that, for the hardest difficulty, that I could play, that I couldn't play, and then I would practice until I could play them, and then if I still couldn't, get perfects after playing them for a while, then I would have to make them easier. But then for the lower difficulties, I would try things like playing when, not really focusing on the screen, or putting the controller upside down, or like I'm left-handed, so I would switch the guitar. And so I think, like, if you're not able to play your track with a handicap, then it's going to be really hard for someone else. And this is going to be, like, impossible for me because
That background.
I'm terrible at trials. Ooh, that's pretty.
You made the casino explode.
Yeah, so that's something the chat requested last time. They wanted that casino to drop.
I
in the
didn't think you'd be
background.
able to pull it off, Don.
Yeah, I pulled it off.
Do we
so-
get that 3 points up there, too?
Yeah, the floating 3 points up there in the sky, you see?
Yeah.
So if you can get all the way up here and you knock this little computer over right there, it'll blow up the casino and sink, and you get the 3 points. Everyone wanted that.
Nice.
Now, can you crash into that spaceship?
Yes, you can. If you time it right, you can bounce off the top of that spaceship.
Oh, that's cool.
Matt, chat says that you are Matt, King of Burns Gilgenbach. You're burning up Dawn, and they're saying that
Oh,
you're
no.
and they're saying that you're devastating Dawn's dreams
Well,
right now.
I said that I'm honest to a fault,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
seems like I'm probably in the fault area at this point.
I
This
love
was the
it.
agreement we walked in with. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to show you guys a couple secrets real fast. You want me
Okay.
to show you? I have a, so the proper way to go, you can go up here and finish it on top of the yacht here, or you can hopefully, if I can pull it off, you can sink down here.
Nice.
And there's a little secret ending, which is cool. Extra 3 points there. Okay, so you can pick up 3 there. I'm getting very low, 5. As you can see, I'm not even getting silver. This is depressing. But we'll show one other secret here at the beginning. And
Oh, nice.
Oh wow!
whoa, this is some stuff that I added in from the new DLC in this cave. You can find
You
here.
see, Don, I feel like your secrets are somewhat reasonable
Whoa.
You think that's a reasonable secret?
compared to the stuff that's in the base game.
Oh yeah, that secret's a lot easier than.
Stuff. I went back and forth exploring every nook and cranny and still couldn't find so many things.
That was a nasty one, though, over the barbed
And
wire.
here's
Yeah,
what I
it is
added.
kinda
See the little
freaky.
wizard back there?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh wow!
And then he disappears?
Yeah.
What's the context?
There's a neat sound there. There's going to be 3 wizards, Kyle.
Really?
And
3 Wizards of Mars?
yeah, that ancient stuff we were talking about before, the ancient track. Remember? I don't know if you remember we were talking about.
Oh, yeah, because if you go underwater, you can see a statue in
Yeah.
the distance.
Maybe they'll be connected to that. Got to tie it all together. So.
I thought wizards were only on the moon. No,
Mars got some wizards, too.
Mars has some wizards.
Yeah.
8-bit wizards.
Yeah. Mars needs moms, but it's good on wizards.
They have plenty of wizards. That's cool. You're trying to create like a mythology and lore.
Oh yeah. So here is that one you were looking for, Kyle. That you can go to this middle track and.
Oh, this is how we get that 1-4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see if we can get it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no. That's too
Whoa.
hard.
Whoa.
Well done, Don. Now he's turning it on.
Whoa.
14 points.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're going to get a good
oh,
score.
no.
Oh, no! Matt, where do you stand with, like, putting secrets in your games?
I think it's a good little touch, but at least with Retrograde, we spent so much time doing all these secrets and special items. We have like an Octodad skin and a Super Meat Boy and a Minecraft thing, and then no one ever saw them. So at least from an indie developer standpoint and a scheduling standpoint, I think it's best to just focus on the core gameplay, the core elements. But I mean, like if you have a larger team or it's a passion project and you have the time, then I think those secrets, those little details, can really make the difference between a good and a great game.
Do you think you'll ever go back to a game like Retrograde?
Well, given that Retrograde was very unsuccessful,
Was it really?
oh, it was a disaster. I gave like a whole GDC talk on like failure and made myself miserable. We killed ourselves, and it's a technically beautiful game. We did 1080p, 60 frames a second anti-aliasing because of all that Skydome optimization. I did no. My business partner was an amazing coder, and so we did all this technical stuff. Even the AAA games were only running at 720p, but we spent so much time on it. It was such a labor of love that we sort of lost track of the idea of marketing the game. We were creating something that had a niche audience, and we had like guitar support. But then, we spent so long developing it that everyone threw out their guitars, so that wasn't really even a selling point. So I mean, like, I feel like for horror games, the advantage is that they have it's easier to market in these days of YouTubers and Let's Players. Because if you look at Retrograde, and I think we got like a few Let's Plays, but the game doesn't make any sense unless you play it. Like, it literally makes no sense at all
Unless you're
actually playing it,
Yeah.
because it just looks like things are going backwards. This is weird.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things. I thought it was really clever. We got like a nomination for like innovation in game design or something at IGF back in 2009, and then spent 3 more years on the game. But like, it was very clever, I think, but it was like too clever to the point that basically you have to play a game that doesn't make sense for like 2 to 4 minutes before you have that eureka moment. And then it's really cool. But the problem is that's a lot to ask, in this day and age where, there's so many entertainment options. Like, suffer through some confusion for 2 to 4 minutes before you see, how clever I was with the game design. So I think definitely we've learned that that was probably not the best idea. And with horror, it's easy to understand, it's easy to market, and I think we're creating sort of different horror games than everyone else. They're not first person. We're bringing in a bunch of new items. So I feel like we've created an audience, or we're addressing sort of an underserved audience, which I think is very important as an indie game developer, because if people are saying, oh, Rock Band has way more songs than Retrograde, and it's like, that's 100% true. Rock Band had 100 times the budget of Retrograde. Maybe not. No, I don't know.
Don's on tilt right now, by the way. Don's died like 5 times in a row.
I can't even complete my.
What do you think about that? 'Cause that's something that's very ingrained in trials. Like, you're going to fail. You're going to fail and fail a lot. So what do you think about that? Like, designing a game to where you expect people to fail and like balancing that kind of difficulty.
I think it's tough, and certainly I'm very bad at games, and I feel like that's actually been a plus as a game designer, because then I don't, I'm not as good, and then once you get good, then you just can do these amazing things in your own game that regular players aren't going to get. So I think it's tough to design a difficult game, because the thing is, it has to seem fair, and it has to seem doable, and you have to make failure enjoyable. And making failure enjoyable is something that's very challenging. And to some extent, one of the advantages of working in horror is that the game doesn't have to be enjoyable. We don't have to create that fun, so we can do, some failure things and some frustrating things that we couldn't get away with in any other genre. But I think it's a very difficult line to walk, and I think, the people, Red Lynx?
Yeah.
Right? Red Lynx did an amazing job with Trials, but like, I played Trials, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I crashed after 2 seconds. Like, this is too hard for me. Like, I can't go forward on a ramp. So I mean, like, definitely, you know, you are limiting your audience.
What advice do you have for Don's level in particular, though? What does he need to change? What does he need to add? What does he need to take out? And what is perfect?
Just any advice for me on how I can complete my track without crashing? any stress you might have right now?
Well, I think you know the fact that you can't complete your track without crashing means that you should probably think about that. Is, you know, you want to get to the point where you can do it every time. Because once you have a game design where you can get it, you know, like. A lot of people said, like, oh man, you know, someone tweeted at me, you know, Retrograde's been out for almost 3 years, and someone tweeted at me, like, hey, I finally beat the, you know, hardest difficulty. And, you know, it was very tough getting to that point where I could feel comfortable putting it out there and know it's not fair. So basically, I got to the point where I could get a perfect almost every time, and then I felt good about putting it out there. But
wait, so did you feel bad about that tweet that you received?
No, I felt good because
okay.
he stuck with it and it was doable.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, in some games, like, I don't want to pick on Batman Arkham Knight, but because it's a terrific game, but, like,
go ahead.
I can't get a hang of the combat. Like, it's, I mean, I wasn't, like, super in love with, I mean, like, from an animation standpoint and the production values and everything, you know, makes you feel like Batman. But from a combat system, like, these amazing things are happening, but I feel as a player that I have no control over them.
Amen to that.
Which was,
I agree.
Ian agrees with you, absolutely.
Which I think it was okay in Arkham Asylum, where it was mostly a button masher, but then in Arkham Knight they add these layers and layers and layers, and so, like, there's, I don't know, like 40 combat controls, and I don't know what any of them are, and then you have to, then they combine them in weird ways. So, like, there was some mission where there's the guy with the shield and there's other guys with the electricity, and you have to press some button combination to shoot your something or another at the guys with the shields, and then there's a different button combination that I can never pull off to get the guys with the shields. And then basically you can't control where Batman is targeting, at least as near as I can figure. So, like, basically I'm pressing the button combinations for the guy with the shield, and then I'm running
he punches
into
the guy with the electricity.
Punches the guy with the electricity.
I've been there, yeah.
Like, I feel like if you're showing help messages in the end of the game, like after, because I was going to do the side missions, and I'm still getting the help messages after I've 100%ed the story, and then, like, if you're still showing them, if people haven't gotten the hang of it at that point, right, like, I feel like there's, you know, something wrong with that, right, in terms of the, you know, they're creating a game that is, I don't know, maybe our artist, you know, he was like, oh no, if you use the right stick, then you can change the target of the enemy, and I'm like, what about the left stick? Like, I'm, you know, don't want to adjust the camera to try and trick the player to fight the guy that I want to fight. So basically I'm just like, nope, I'm done. I did the story, I wanted to do the side missions, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do the side missions because, like, this is no fun for me. I don't feel like I got better. You know, I was able to, like, just upgrade my health to the point that I could get, and I was playing on easy too.
Yeah, I hear you.
But, like, I mean, and again, I'm bad at video games, and I'm sure everyone on the stream is like, you suck, and I'm willing to admit that I suck, but I think, like, a good game, the best game designs are one where people who suck can play them, and that's one of the things, you know, with Neverending Nightmares is we wanted to create a game that everyone could play. You know, there's gamers with disabilities, and there's, you know, different control schemes. You know, could Neverending Nightmares work on mobile? Yeah, I think it could work on mobile, and I think, you know, to create a game that has that level of accessibility opens up a lot of doors in terms of marketing the game. Because the worst thing for me is when I create a game and someone says, I want to play this game, but I can't. And maybe they can't because of, you know, technical requirements, or they can't play because we released on the wrong platforms, or, you know, that something, it's too hard. So, I mean, I try really hard to create something that will be, you know, that everyone can enjoy. And we have, like, a ridiculously easy difficulty level on Retrograde just because.
But, like, you would definitely rank that against Don's level. like if you were to score Don's level on a scale of 1 to 10, you're going to hit it pretty hard because of how difficult it appears to be. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've never played this, right? And
But yeah,
so-
we're just looking at his level design.
If he can't play it,
Yeah.
then I mean that to me is scary, right?
So we're gonna have to get a
Because-
failing grade, right?
Well, I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I've already earned a reputation for
devastating
my epic
Don's
burns
dreams.
and devastating. But I would say needs more work. Is I would give it. And
Now that we've berated Don,
Yeah, we
do
gotta
you,
answer some of
do you
your
mind taking
questions.
some questions while Don tries to
Sure.
finish this
We should go back to the
monstrosity?
desk, though. We'll go
Okay.
back up to the desk, answer some
we'll
questions.
check back on
I
you
like
later,
your
Don.
level, Don.
Oh, thanks. I'll let you know if I complete it.
I think your level is genius, Don.
Oh, thanks. You like the wizard in the cave?
Yeah.
I think you're a very good person, Don.
You hardly know me. Thanks for your
I was just trying to like compliment sandwich it, but it,
Oh, yeah,
it
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
work out.
Thanks for your message.
This is from Luke Skywalk 122. What is it like making a horror game compared to working on other titles, and how do you define what is scary or know what is scary?
So it's really challenging because I'm creating, I know what's going to happen. So there's a couple of metrics that I use. One is that if I can sort of creep myself out, there's definitely elements that even, for Neverending Nightmares, it was in development for, I don't know, a year and 9 months or something. There's a particular section where the character walks and there's these monster stomps that actually pass it over the character. And even, that was one of the early things we did, so after a year and 9 months, it still gave me the chills. So that was a good sign. And just walking around the jungle with the flashlight still creeps me out, at this point in development. But the thing I really like to do is put a new scare in and not tell anyone else on the team. And then
that's a cool
I usually
idea.
get like a, you jerk, or I don't know, something more profane. I don't know if I can swear on this.
You absolutely
but,
can, yeah.
Like, you asshole. Like,
Yeah, there it is.
yeah. Yeah, like, and then I'm like, yes, mission accomplished.
That's Elyse right now. It's like, oh, I got him to swear. Mission
Yeah.
accomplished.
Yeah. Like, let's get this 18
I
over.
was expecting a better swear, though.
No. Well, fortunately, I have a nice team. So.
This is from Ruai DJ 18.
Ruari.
Ruai.
Rory?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
None of you agree.
There's
on
a
how to
D in
pronounce
there,
this.
Kyle.
I swear to you. Yeah. It's a silent D.
Oh. I would like everyone's reaction on the announcement of a live-action Aladdin prequel.
Is that real?
What?
Apparently, this happened while we've been making this
Okay.
dumb show.
Okay,
There's
cool.
more important things. There's an Aladdin
This is
prequel.
great. Yeah, we get Matt's live reaction.
Wait, Disney?
Does that work? Someone can find that or whatever.
Do you have no stakes in like the Aladdin? You're not even like upset about that?
Well, I mean, right, like, I think it's inevitable. I mean, there's the live action Alice in Wonderland. There's live action, I don't know, Disney has like 10. They did a live action, Cinderella.
Yeah.
There's
Disney on Ice.
Beauty and the Beast, I think, is live action
Beauty and
next.
the Beast. Yeah, so I mean, like, I think it's inevitable. I think it's interesting that it's a prequel because I'm not really sure what the
Yeah, he's
the
just, like,
conflict is
being
going to be
poor.
there. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm poor, I'm a thief, I'm not going to be redeemed.
I steal only what I can afford. Yeah, that's gonna be a good movie.
That's
a good movie.
everything.
I steal only what I can't afford. Roll credits. There's no dynamic there, but yeah, maybe they can cast some really good-looking people and sell it to the Twilight crowd. I don't know.
Sure.
This is from Basey Facey. Why is the Kickstarter goal the very precise number of $115,896?
That is a very good question,
Yeah.
and the reason is because basically I did a big spreadsheet. And I said, this is what we have, profits from Neverending Nightmares. Here's what I expect to make for the next year. And I can't promise that I'm 100% on the dot, but I think I have a pretty good sense of, what we can sell. And then I said, Kickstarter fees and all the everything, and figured out exactly the number. And then I rounded down because there was like some cents, and I figured that would just be obnoxious.
Sure.
And so basically we're asking for exactly what we need to complete the game and not a penny more, a couple pennies less. So I thought, right, like if we're asking for money, we don't want to, pad it out. We don't want to, just round up. So we actually, when we were doing the sample page, we had a much larger number, and then we've gotten in some cool Steam promotions, and so the numbers actually come down. In the past several months, we've prepared the Kickstarter.
Why didn't you cut what you wanted in half and say like, 50,000, and then keep the second half of the story as stretch goals?
Well, I mean, like, in the end, I want to deliver a product that I'm, proud of, that accomplishes my goals for it. And one of the things, like, even like cutting, $20,000 off the budget, something I really thought about. I'm like, oh man, maybe we can get stretch goals, and maybe we'll be okay with 11 months of, development. But then I have a pretty good feel for it. We made the demo. I know how long everything took, and everything, of course, takes twice as long as you think it will. That's the game development scheduling rule of thumb. And so basically I said, I don't want to, put myself in the position where we can't deliver something good, and we're sort of just hoping that, we'll get stretch goals. I think
I really appreciate that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's tough, to say, I'm going to set the goal that I need, and I think a lot of developers are afraid to do that. Instead, set the goal that they can achieve. So I mean, certainly we have an ambitious goal, for a project. I think we can do it. We have a great community, but I mean, it's going to be tough, and I think a lot of people don't want to be in that situation where they have to ask a lot, where they have to sort of worry about it and really push their Kickstarter.
And we're kind of going over, but like, screw it.
Screw it.
Fast and
loose.
Yeah,
Yes,
that gets it. Yes. This is from Digimons. What other genre?
I'm sorry, Digimons?
Digmanz.
Okay.
Did you say Zed?
No.
Okay.
No, that's fine.
I
Be
was
proud
just
of your
checking.
Canadian
Yeah.
heritage. Yeah.
A boot.
Whoa.
Be proud of boot. You're
Yeah,
Canadian.
let's see what this question's about. What genre other than horror would you consider making games for?
Well, I mean, I really like working in the horror genre, and I feel like this has been my home, but I have a lot of experience making action games, and to some extent I really miss that, because horror games they're about the atmosphere, they're about the environment, and as a programmer, like, there's not as much as I can't control that, but with like an action game, I think you really need to gameplay. You need to have a great gameplay programmer to really tighten that core game mechanic loop and really make it shine. And so that was something I really enjoyed doing, and something I kind of miss. So I definitely would like action games, but I mean, there's a lot of types of games that I would like to design, but there's only so many hours in the day, and I can't promise, I'd be good at designing like a dating sim, but certainly it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to try it. Bucket list. Right?
Horror dating sim.
Horror dating sim.
That's a good idea for a
I
game.
honestly saw that on
Oh.
Kickstarter or
Really?
something like it. It was an interesting product. I can't remember what it was called.
And I guess, is there anything that you want to say to the audience to like promote right now? I guess the Kickstarter, obviously, and Neverending Nightmares, but you can go crazy, go buck wild right now.
Go buck wild. Well, as they mentioned, we're on Kickstarter. We really need support from gamers like you to make something great. And the cool part is, one of the things, and certainly we talked a little bit about Kickstarter, but a lot of people view Kickstarter as a funding source, as something just to raise money. But to me, I think Kickstarter is about interfacing with the community and getting the community involved, and I find that really helpful. So I think it's, there's definitely great Kickstarters. I'm super excited about Shenmue 3, but I think, in those larger Kickstarters, you won't really get as much involvement with the inner workings of the game, and that's something that I really try to offer to the backers. I do weekly updates, so I think it's a really cool experience to get in on our Kickstarter rather than just waiting to buy the game when it's released. So that's my little, I'm putting on my businessman hat and trying to sell you on our Kickstarter.
The Gilgenbach promise. You can be involved with this game.
Yes.
Oh, I swallowed that last word. But I think that's a cool thing to take to heart, is that like a person giving money to your Kickstarter can be involved with the game's development. I think that's kind of huge, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's really the promise and the potential of Kickstarter, and I think that's what people look for. They want to be part of something, and I think that's why, because I mean, Kickstarter it's a terrible system if you just want to pre-order a game. Like if you want to pre-order a game, well, pre-ordering games is a whole can of worms,
Don't
right?
get me started on pre-ordering games.
Did anyone pre-order Arkham Knight on PC?
Right.
But I think, you know, what we're offering is something much, you know, far removed from a pre-order. We're offering, you know, I don't want to say early access because that's a whole nother thing with a whole nother can of worms. But I like to think of it almost as a partnership, right? Like we take your feedback seriously. I have like over 2,000 posts on our forum, and you know, I try to do like 3 developer diaries a week about, you know, what we're working on. I do them on YouTube. They're very low production value, but you know, I really try and get people as involved as they want to be, and I think that's something that's great about being indie, because like if you're like I worked at Heavy Iron Studios a long time ago, and like when we went to E3, we had a list of things we could say, and basically we could only say the things on the sheet, and if someone asked a question, we were supposed to try and redirect to
Oh yeah, we've been on the other end
sheet.
of that plenty of times.
Right.
Like doing interviews. And so you're happy to never have those lists again.
Yeah, so I can honestly tell people, you know, like I made some mistakes on Retrograde, you know, I went crazy with, you know, little details, and, you know, I'm trying not to do it again. And, you know, one of the things I looked at, you know, Neverending Nightmares and the reception, and I've been thinking about, you know, how can I make Devastated Dreams appeal to the people that, you know, purchased Neverending Nightmares but didn't really dig it, right? How can I make a game that they like? And, you know, so I've been very honest on my developer diaries, you know, talking about maybe we're a little too cryptic, and you know how you know, we really wanted to push the sort of frustration and aimless wandering, you know, almost to the detriment of player enjoyment. And so, you know, for Devastated Dreams, we're trying to do something different. We have different goals, and so I think one of the goals is to create something that is even more appealing, and you know, that's something you can be honest about, where it's like, you know, if you want to say, hey, we screwed up, right, you know, and you work for a publisher that has to go through, like, you know, director of marketing and director of PR, and they're just gonna whitewash everything.
Yeah. Before we go for the night, we do have to check back in with Don, who seems Don, I think you've still not finished with a silver yet, if I'm correct. Don, is that the case?
He got a gold before.
Did he get a gold? You finished with gold?
Hold on, I just can't talk right now.
Okay, so we're gonna watch Don's final playthrough of this level. This is Don's final attempt. High stakes.
Well, now you're gonna make him nervous.
I'm trying to.
Ah,
He's doing great though.
yeah.
He's
I think
absorbing
he's just
the
going
pressure.
for the end, though.
No, he's gonna get that platinum.
Oh, look at those points, baby. I got 17.
You gotta go underwater, Don. You gotta get that platinum.
I'm so nervous, man. I just want to go on top of the ship right now. I haven't finished it. Can I just go on top, Kyle?
But it's 3 points down there in the water, Don.
I'm so nervous. I finally made it. Okay, slow down. I needed that one. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Don't choke. Everyone in the world.
Yes!
is watching
He did
you
it.
now.
Yes!
He's made it!
Yes! Platinum!
So now just get it to the point where you can platinum it every time.
Matt, we appreciate you coming here and giving
Yeah.
Don advice, but also talking about your game, the development. Thank you so much for spending an hour and 10 minutes with us. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been a blast of a show, Elyse. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming,
Ian,
Matt.
thank you so much for making all this run.
My pleasure.
Don, thank you so much for showing us your level.
Thank you, Matt.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm sorry I was too cruel.
That was really fun.
And Blood, thanks for playing a terrifying game and only getting scared once. And of course, thank you to everyone who's watching right now. We appreciate that so much.
How long
we
does the
go ahead.
Kickstarter go for?
It ends August 16th.
And the easiest way to find it is probably just to like Google Devastated Dreams, right?
Yeah.
Is that like the best way to do that?
Yeah,
Cool.
probably.
So Google Devastated Dreams and hang out on GameTrailers.com all week long. All right, thank you so much for watching, and see you later, everybody.